Whiskey Jason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American over here in Germany, tasting often rare and exotic whiskeys, and this is very exotic, very rare. This is the corn whiskey, bottled by Whiskybroker in the UK, that was distilled at the Heaven Hill Distillery and has been aged for a total 12 years. 53.5% ABV, 107 proof, and I paid 51 euros for this bottle. Now, that was including postage and so on. It's 45 pounds is what I see online. Whiskybase number 191959. This was distilled on the 17th of August, 2009. This was bottled on the 17th of August, 2021. So they have exactly here the years that they needed for 12. And it's a first fill bourbon barrel. Bourbon barrel number 3440932. And they got 312 bottles out of there. And I was like, wait a second, 312 bottles from a first fill bourbon barrel? That's like 218 liters of liquid at cask strength. I was like, oh, it's not cask strength. It's 53.3%. So they added water to it to get the 312 bottles out of there. And ta-da, that's what we have here. So, yeah, have you ever had an aged corn whiskey? Now, metal corn from Heaven Hill has bottom bond, so it's at least 4 years of age, but there isn't an age statement on it. And it's 50%. Here we have 53.5. I've had a 12-year-old Heaven Hill, also from Whiskybroker. That's where they are. They matured it there and was bottled up there in Scotland and then brought over to Germany. And you really notice the difference in the taste profile between a product that was 12 years in Kentucky heat and maybe 2 years in Kentucky heat and 10 years in the England damp coolness. All right, so what am I going to compare it to? If you know me, I'm going to always compare it to something. I have Balcones here. Just look at the difference in the colors. All right, so this is it says here Texas blue corn. Now, this does say bourbon on it. Straight bourbon whiskey finished in wine cask with 60.8%. So Balcones was bought by Diageo. Diageo basically said, hey, we're going to pull out of Europe. They're now building, if I'm correctly informed, they're doubling the capacity of the Balcones Distillery in Waco. As soon as that's done, as soon as they've laid down the barrels, as soon as the barrels have reached the 4 years of age, they'll come back to Europe. But by that time, they will continue to advance and expand into the American country and all 50 states, hopefully, and then they'll come back to Europe and we will have a wonderful, wonderful product. I like Balcones, and I have a little tear in my eye that they've retreated. Let me use the word retreated here from the UK. Now, corn whiskey is the black sheep of the American whiskey categories, in my opinion. Yes, there's even blacker sheep, but we won't go there. If we have bourbon, it's usually at least 51% corn. If we have a wheated whiskey, it's 51% wheat. If we have a rye whiskey, it's at least 51% rye. If it's a malt whiskey, we have malt whiskeys in America. I'm not talking single malt, I'm talking malt whiskeys, 51% malt. We even have a malted rye whiskey category. Most people don't know that, 51%. And the only difference that there ever is in everything, it has to be a majority of that one product, that one grain, and ta-da, it is, except for corn. Corn whiskey is 80%. All right, now the big difference between corn whiskey and bourbon, Reservoir in Richmond, Virginia make a bourbon from 100% corn. So it's still bourbon. Why? Because they use new casks. All the other things, if it's a straight product, everything, if it's a malted rye, if it's a wheat, if it's a malt, if it's a bourbon or a rye, you have to have new casks, new charred oak casks. Corn, not. Either they have to be new casks that are not charred or used. And in this case, they just decided to use a used cask. a first fill bourbon, which I think is great. So this is what a corn whiskey looks like in a first fill bourbon cask. I actually had, I exhibited with Balcones and many different whiskey festivals and fairs here in Germany. And I had the Mirador, which was a single malt from Balcones, used casks. And I had the single malt Texas One, which was new casks. And you showed them and compared them with each other. Dark, rich, great, light. It's very evident if you're using new cask or used casks. Think of a tea bag. Use the tea bag the first time, a lot of flavor, a lot of color. Use the tea bag, the barrel the second time, oh, much less color, much less flavor. So, all right. Mash bill. Can someone please tell me what the mash bill is of metal corn? Now, if I go over here to Breaking Bourbon, they say 90% corn, 10% rye, and malted barley. If I go over to Heaven Hill, they actually say 80% corn, 12% malted barley, and 8% rye. Now, I believe Heaven Hill more than I do Breaking Bourbon, but usually I believe Breaking Bourbon. All right, now the very interesting thing is corn whiskey. So let's talk about metal corn from Heaven Hill. If it is 80% corn, the normal bourbon, Elijah Craig, whatever, is 78%. So we're just talking about two measly little percentage points. But don't forget to use barrels. All right, that's what really makes the difference here. All right, so yeah. What can I say? Do you know of any corn whiskeys with an age statement? That's my question of the day at the beginning. And my second question of the day is, what corn whiskeys do you like? I like MB Roland's corn whiskey. We have that in our program from N10 Bourbons over here, and 95% white corn, 5% malted barley. So we talk about very brief lecture on corn. Number 2 dent yellow corn is feed corn. That's the corn we give to the hogs and the cattle and so on, all right? That's feed corn. You let it dry on the stalks, and you harvest it in October or wherever you are, and it's feed corn. That's what we use for bourbon. Now, you can use sugar corn, which is yellow, which is a lot higher. That's what we eat, corn on the cob. That's sugar corn. You can use blue corn, which Balcones uses a lot. We have the blue tortillas. We have that blue corn. We have bloody butcher corn. Iron Root uses a lot of that. And you also have the highest level for me, which my grandpa used to always have in his garden, would be white sugar corn. The sweetest, it was so sticky, it was so juicy, it was so good. So we have the white sugar corn, we have the normal yellow sugar corn, and we have the number 2 dent corn, all right? And so those are some of the different areas, and then you go off to the indigenous corn, bloody butcher. There's dozens, if not hundreds, of different varietals of corn out there in the world, starting out in Mexico, going over to South America, Middle America, up into Americas. And it's amazing what different flavor profiles you can get from corn. I have I'm going to do a video. I did a video. I have to just edit and put it up online from Sierra Neutra from Mexico. They talk about the rainbow corn. There's all these different, they have yellow, they have blue, they have red, they have black, they have silver, I think. All these different types of corn. That's great. And don't forget, we're using basically, for most of the bourbons produced in Kentucky, most, not all, most, just feed corn. All right? As long as it's not moldy, they'll use it. Sorry to say so. All right, good. I get popcorn. I get a little bit of buttered popcorn. Not much more. A little bit of vanillas and a little bit of a wood moment. I worship rye whiskey. I love bourbon. Corn whiskey I like. It's not something I'm going to write home about, you know? Cheers. At the beginning, it's hot, even though they have reduced it down to 53.5% with water. As soon as you swallow, the heat stays a little bit there, white pepper, but then you get that popcorn moment, and then you get the buttered popcorn moment towards the end. It's got a fairly long finish, The finish is better than the actual starting a process of when the bourbon hit, that's right, the corn whiskey hits the tongue. Creamy, buttery, nice. There's this guy actually here on Whiskybase. He wrote the following. It's clearly a corn whiskey, reminiscent of bourbon, but with characteristics from an ex-bourbon cask. I like that. How many people said, oh, bourbons are in ex-bourbon cask? No, they're not. They're in virgin oak. So, cleaner than a bourbon, I would say, with more vanilla cream and less wood. Very sweet and creamy, rather friendly on the nose. On the taste, creamy, sweet vanilla, some caramel. I say caramel, you say caramel. Something akin to blackberries. A little bit of fruitiness, he says here. His name is 3_243F6, all right? And he says the finish is vanilla cream with buttery caramel and short. I would say it's middle long. This is a C whiskey. On a bad day, a C minus. Value for money. Would I pay 50 euros for this? No. Mellow corn used to be in the States $9.99. Now it's gone up in price. Even over here in Germany, if I just type in the mellow corn here, I'm going to be paying, I used to pay 19 euros for it. I now pay 28. So that's what I'm often, I can get it for 40 at some places. All right. So everywhere it's at 28 euros, it's out of stock. And that's the problem here. All right. So we have it for 32. So anywhere between 22 and 33 euros is the going price at the moment for mellow corn straight whiskey with 50%. Yeah, I don't know if I want to pay that much money for it. This, on the other hand, I love. This is so good. I don't know if you've ever seen this before. That Balcones Texas Blue Corn with the wine finish. This is cask strength. This is. We need this in heaven. That is some fine juice there. My bottle. I'm happy I have a little bit left, and I savor it, and I savor it, and I savor it. All right, as I said, C on a good day, C minus on a bad day. Value for money, more of a C minus, maybe even a D plus for 50 euros. No, not going there. Would I buy the mellow corn instead with 50% with 4 years of age instead of 12? Yes. If I had it, I would have compared it, and I probably would have said, hey, the mellow corn is actually better in my opinion. I remember the mellow corn being not as peppery, not as hot as this is. That's just my personal opinion here. Am I happy to have this? Yes. This was imported by my friend Tilo Schnabel. He is the Cask Hound, and he does one of the bottles. He works with the Whiskybroker as well, and they brought some bottles over here from England, and one of them was a corn whiskey. So well done, well done. Thank you for spicing up the variety of whiskeys available in Germany. Whiskey Jason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American over here in Germany, tasting rare and exotic whiskeys. Thank you that you could watch. What's your favorite corn whiskey, and do you know of any corn whiskeys with an age statement? See you soon. Bye-bye.